Magnus here, and welcome to my Shenmue review video. And if you're new to this channel, I talk about Shenmue content and video game content coming up in the future, but this will be the culmination of the past couple of years on this channel, the Shenmue 3 review. I hope you enjoy it. We finally did it. We all have Shenmue 3 in our hands, and hopefully if you're watching this video, you've played the game. But if you're here because you really want my opinion as to whether the game is good or not before you purchase the game, well, this video is for you. This video is also for if you have played the game and just want to hear my thoughts. But if you just want my quick opinion now without all the filler, here's my recommendation. Go buy the game. It's not perfect, but go buy it. Is it good? In my opinion, yes. But we are all different, so I can't predict if you'll like it. With all the different opinions online about Shenmue 3 from fans and non-fans, it's hard to tell what pleases anyone these days. My last video was an analysis of the reviews themselves, so I'll leave the link on this video to that one if you want to see that breakdown. So if you've seen my previous review of Shenmue and Shenmue 2 re-release, this will be a similar format. First, I'll discuss my opinion of the game if you're absolutely new to this series and review it from that perspective as much as I can. From then, I'll then approach it from a fan returning to the series and that perspective, which is a view that I can mostly relate to. So without further ado, let's begin with Shenmue 3 from a modern new gamer's perspective. If you've never played a Shenmue game before, I'd honestly totally recommend that you purchase the HD re-releases off the bat. That is a must. But if you've purchased the game or received it as a gift from your aunt, girlfriend / boyfriend who knows little to nothing about video games and you want to jump in, well, here goes. Boot the game, and after a few of the developer's logos, you're right at the title screen. No intro video. Don't expect any additional detail about what you need to do. Just a basic title screen with options, load game, continue game, and one thing you should definitely click first is a movie to watch what happened in the previous two Shenmue games. If you didn't play the first two games, this video, in my opinion, goes by very quick and is a really high level overview about what the story is about. Unfortunately, it's not a great representation of the previous games. And if you've ever played Shenmue 2 on the Dreamcast, you would have seen a movie that does a much better job at summarizing the first Shenmue. But this video had to pack two games in as quick as possible. So after absorbing the digest movie and jumping into the game, you see that you're in a cave. But why are you in a cave? What's going on? Why is Shenhua so concerned with finding her father? What happened? So many questions. This is my initial gripe with the game as a new player. You're basically lost in the world that you're supposed to care about, but you're left feeling a bit disconnected. So the game starts with cutscenes that just have you asking a bunch of questions. Then the cuts themselves feel a bit awkward. The main characters walk, then everything fades to black. Then when it comes back, they're just talking to each other. Then everything fades to black again, and then they're walking. The fades to black give you a sense of the game feeling a little cheap. Now yes, I'm being harsh, I get it, but I know that it's a Kickstarted game and it looks amazing for the budget that was given to this game. But if you're someone who knows nothing about how this game came together, and what type of budget it had, or how amazing it is that the game even exists, then you're not cutting it any breaks, especially if you paid full price for the game, which is a price that many AAA games would charge. So when you feel that you're not getting that, I could understand why you might feel a bit cheated from that perspective. So from then on, the game continues on with its story. Now let's get to the gameplay. This game, like its predecessors, is broken up in several game modes. Free quest mode, where you move around freely and continue to unravel the mysteries of the game. There is where you speak with people, gather information, search for clues, and advance the storyline. Then there's free battle mode. This mode is basically whenever a battle scene unfolds, you'll use simple button combinations and trigger commands to help Ryo execute moves necessary to defeat opponents. QTE mode involves participation in short dramatic event scenes in which you must press controller buttons that correspond to icons that appear on the game display within the time limit. And then finally, view mode, which is just watching cutscenes that progress the game story further. So in a nutshell, the game is a slow crawl. Though the landscapes look beautiful, it seems that the game gives an impression of rough edges. From the way he walks to conversations with everyone, it seems that the game has a rough start. But as you play through the game, the story starts to connect itself to a cohesive storyline. Thugs are in Bailu village. You're looking for Shenhua's dad, you want revenge on a man who murdered your father, and you train in martial arts. If you stick with the story long enough, the initial grievances you have with the game eventually are the exact things that give it somewhat of a unique charm. Eventually, you will get absorbed with the story and appreciate what the game is trying to do. But then you'll notice that a lot of your time is taken up by fetch quests and money earning missions in order to have the story proceed. These are all purposely done by the director. The question is it done to stretch the game's time, or is it that you actually immerse yourself with all the game's distractions? The game's mini-games and side quests range from training, gambling, games, and other activities. There are so many side activities to do in this game compared to the first two games, you can honestly get lost in everything. The question is, will you enjoy it? Are these activities enough to make you enjoy the game? Possibly. For perfectionists, you'll drill through everything. For others, perhaps you will find yourself enjoying one or two of the activities, like chopping wood, or the gambling games such as Pail Toss or Lucky Hit. With all this stuff going on, will you make it to the end? Perhaps, but it will take a lot of drilling through the game, and it really depends on whether you feel you have immersed yourself in this world. Speaking of immersing yourself in this world, a large portion of this immersion is the martial arts and fighting. Fighting is important to this game. Training and growing your skills matters, as well as collecting scrolls in order to become more powerful. But all of this goes to a fighting system that seems to be different. Modern games that incorporate fighting in groups are usually in-depth and incorporate pretty moves for simple button presses. The fighting system in Shenmue 3 is unique, but seems to be rough around the edges. You can find fun in the fighting system, or you might find it a tedious button masher. If you don't enjoy the fighting, fortunately the bulk of the gameplay is not related to combat. To tie this section up, it really is a game that is up to the player to determine whether it's a good game or not. Do you enjoy a mostly story-driven game with plenty of side quests? Then perhaps this is your type of game. Are you the type that enjoys a fast-paced, action-driven game that moves along quickly? Then steer clear. That's all I can say from a newcomer's perspective. And now, let's go to the second portion of my review. This is the portion for those returning to the series after enjoying the first two games. Let me start simply by saying, if you haven't bought this game by now, then it's only because you're planning on buying it shortly, but something is holding you back. Once whatever that is finally out of your way, you're picking it up. But let's get on with it. You've been waiting a long time for the story to continue, and you finally get to see what happens in this game. The game picks up right after the ending of the second game, and you finally make your way out of the cave. I was so excited for this moment and felt immediately wrapped up in the story. Much like what I said in my new perspective review, I was a little taken aback with the dialogue jumping back and forth from walking, then fading to black, and then standing with each other, then walking and talking again. It took away from the experience a bit. However, after some gameplay and listening to the voice actors, I was pulled in once again.
Hey Shenhua.
What's the matter?
Does the village usually have gatekeepers?
Nostalgia is a pretty strong emotion, and it can have you love something, even if it's a bit flawed. That's why I separate my reviews. Now, it's not all an exact copy of the first two Shenmue games. There are a number of differences that you've got to come to grips with. First is the obvious control change. Now, most might find this is an improvement over the Dreamcast originals. Using the analog sticks just makes a ton more sense than using the directional pad. My personal opinion agrees with this. However, something just feels a bit off, mostly because Rio is in the bottom left portion of the screen as you walk around, and a bit of it seems a little unnatural. I found myself spinning my perspective over and over again when I'm just trying to see where I'm going or what shop I wanted to look at next. Now let's talk about the combat. If you know and love the combat from the first two games, this game basically does away with that entire system. You may recognize some of the moves, such as the elbow assault or roundhouse kick, but those moves feel different. The combat itself feels different. Now I've seen polarizing opinions on that, but my personal opinion is simply the fact that I honestly enjoyed the combat. There was a certain weight to it, and though the enemy types seem to be very similar, and in some ways it can feel a bit button mashy, I really enjoyed the weight of certain moves, and the way that some bodies just flail around after a few attacks just had me smiling the whole way through. I never felt that annoyed or frustrated with battles, even when I lost. I was always eager to try again and fight more. However, the frustration for me personally comes in the waiting and loading screens when waiting for a battle to commence. I'm so eager to just start a battle that I grew a bit impatient, but was excited as ever once a battle would start. Now let's talk about life in general. The game is not only about unraveling the story, but it's also about living your life in this world. New to this game is the concept of eating. This new mechanic is honestly something you never had to deal with in the other games, and though it can be a bit annoying, I felt that it served another connected purpose. You see, by incorporating eating, that meant that you had to earn money in order to feed yourself. This meant that you either had to get a job or find other ways to earn the money, such as street fighting or gambling. But then there's the catch. Many games that involve gambling forced you to buy tokens. Buying tokens were enough to purchase prizes in the prize exchange shops. These prizes each had different values. From there, you can go to a pawn shop and exchange them for in-game currency. By adopting this method, you can tell that it was the developer's way of pulling you into the world even more. This was further exacerbated by the game's plot. There were also moments when, in order to advance the game, characters would ask for either expensive items or large amounts of money. This would then force you to earn money quickly in order to move the story along. Again, by doing this, I believe the developers wanted you to immerse yourself in the game's world to truly enjoy yourself. Honestly, I did. I found myself at times turning on the game just to earn more money doing different things and just not care about the plot for a while. It was honestly fun. The distractions were more fun and diverse in this game than the previous two games, in my opinion. You can shop at almost every shop, you can find interesting places to gamble, and the different arcade spots looked interesting, though the games there were a bit limited. Now when it comes to fan service, this game does it all. Now I'll avoid spoilers in this review, but if you're a fan, it definitely gives you some memorable callbacks to familiar characters in the series. And if you were a backer, this game will feel extra special. It gave so many in-game thank yous to backers, it must have been a true pleasure to experience the dream come true for them. As a backer myself, I felt like I was a part of something bigger, especially after finding my name in the credits. Now from a story perspective, I also realized that opinions are mixed. Some have wished that it pushed the story further, while others were completely satisfied. I will honestly say that I enjoyed the game's story and felt that it was what it needed to be. Yu Suzuki never promised that this would end the series and has stated that it wasn't meant to be the end of the series. And honestly, I was hoping that it would just be good enough to keep the plot moving forward. I would honestly love to see the story culminate and really progress in, say, Shenmue 4, when they hopefully have a much larger budget. This makes more sense to me than to try to rush this game and squeeze in as much as possible, making it feel a bit cheap. The story is good enough. So in conclusion, I sure would like to say that I wholeheartedly recommend Shenmue 3 as a bridge to a truly epic potential Shenmue 4, a love letter to the series and a game that really tries to bring you in to understand it. I can't recommend it enough. The question is, Does this game understand today's gamers and give them what they want? That's a question that I can't answer. Here's to Shenmue 3. It's truly a timeless gem that is worth the time it took for it to be released. Now let's get Shenmue 4 started. Hope you enjoyed this review. It really came from the heart, and it took a bit of time because I wasn't really looking at others' reviews. I wasn't really like watching other opinions, maybe one or two as long as they were spoiler free. But I felt that Shenmue is one of those games that you take your time and engross yourself in that world before you can just give your opinion. Because if you try to just get that review out there as soon as the video launches, yeah, you might get more clicks, but will you have really understood the game? I myself took it upon this review to know that I have played the game and let it simmer a bit before I give you guys my honest opinion. And I've already started playing a couple more times just because there's so many things to do in the game. But I honestly enjoyed it, and I think it's exactly what I wanted so many years ago. Let me know what you guys think, and I will say, don't know when I'm releasing this review because I've got a ton to edit so I can publish it. But if it'll probably be after the holidays. But in any case, happy 2020. Enjoy this year, and in 2020 I'm going to release a lot more diverse gaming videos as well as continue on with Shenmue 3. And don't forget game sales, guys. Got a ton more to show you in the upcoming year. Can't wait to launch this new year with you guys. Thank you for being a part of it, and as always, you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. Shenmue 4.